It's long been noted that while the two are linked, correlation does not always imply causation. To me, there is a similar rule, which is that while the two are linked, popularity does not always imply quality. However, this rule isn't one that's as easy to codify on account of the fact that one, and to a lesser extent two, of these factors are subjective. I want you to keep this in mind because today I'm going to be talking about the 2018 anime Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, or just Bunny Girl Senpai as I'm going to be calling it throughout this video. I have my opinions on this anime, and I won't disclose them yet. As the title, and probably also the thumbnail of this video implies, Bunny Girl Senpai is popular, and I don't really know why. Throughout this video I'm going to be using the word popularity a lot, but it's kind of hard to measure popularity. We could use sales as an example, but sometimes numbers won't tell you everything, since there are some things that have failed financially that have gone on to have a much bigger cultural impact and people remembering them than those that were doing financially successful at the time. But Bunny Girl Senpai had a lot of people talking about it when it came out, and it's still fairly well known today, so I think I can get away with describing it as popular. Is the timer done yet? Good. You see, the thing about Bunny Girl Senpai is that this anime is fucking sweet. Sorry, I had to wait for YouTube to stop detecting profanity. I might have baited some of you with the opening spiel, but don't get me wrong, I love Bunny Girl Senpai. This show was one of my favourites, if not my absolute favourite anime from 2018, and I'm so glad to see that even today people are still talking about it. But what I said earlier is still true. While I can easily see why people like this series, I don't understand why it became, or for that matter stayed, so popular. The sad thing is you need more than just quality to get popular amongst the anime community with so many shows coming out, and there were quite a lot of obstacles in the way of Bunny Girl Senpai getting the popularity that it did. The first big problem that this anime had to overcome was that it wasn't very animated. Most of this show is just people talking in fairly mundane scenarios. Add onto this that the character design went for a much more realistic approach, so the characters don't exactly pop out of the screen. I'm not saying that this show looks bad by any means, especially with how well they brought the Fujisawa area to life, but there are only a handful of scenes where you think, yeah, this had to be anime, this couldn't have just been done in live action. Now you might say to yourself, hang on, the words bunny girl are in the title. Obviously that's a big visual reason why people were watching, and I'm afraid to tell you that you just outed yourself as a fake fan. Because if you actually watch the show, then you might remember that the bunny girl suit appears less often than Kamisato, and you had to just look up who that was again. So the bunny girl suit argument is off the table. If anything, the bunny girl suit probably got the opposite effect, since it filtered out a lot of people who thought that it was too weird. No, I suppose I'm kinda glad they did. Believe me, I'm not going to complain that they put bunny girls in the title, because I am no prude. If I was, then I would have stretched this video to be an hour long and I would have inserted a bullshit sociology thesis for no reason. However, ask anyone their favourite anime, and you'd have a 97.5% chance that the series they name will have much more going on in terms of what's being animated, as well as concepts and settings that are just much more over the top than what you'll find in Bunny Girl Senpai. Even if they name a slice of life anime, it's still more than likely that the character design in the show they name is a lot more stylized than Bunny Girl Senpai, even if it's through something as basic as one of the characters having a hair color which you can only find on a deluxe color chart. When you've been watching anime for this long, you have to condition yourself to remember that blue isn't a natural hair color. The second reason I'm surprised that Bunny Girl Senpai got so popular was because it came out in fall 2018, and anime was stacked that season. Bear in mind, this was the same season that Trigger released SSSS Gridman, which appealed to both people who were fans of tokusatsu and people who wanted to see Trigger do more mecha, and barely anyone watched it because of how many other great shows were coming out at the same time. To be precise, there were two shows coming out that might have taken attention away from Bunny Girl Senpai, those being Zombieland Saga and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5. You wouldn't quite understand how inescapable these two shows were if you weren't watching anime at this time, but here's a bit of perspective on the matter. Zombieland Saga was from that part of MAPPA's history where they still dabbled in originals instead of drowning in manga adaptations. It's an idol anime starring zombified pop stars who have been brought together by Mamoru Miyano once he's at least 3 espressos deep, and as can be expected, there's no shortage of bizarre moments. These bizarre moments were so frequent that they could be spread around incredibly easily, so even without the pre-existing fanbase to back it up, which would have come if this show had been a manga or light novel adaptation, there were still plenty of people who were singing its praises, and it was probably the most popular comedy anime of the year. The only complaint people had was the dodgy CG, so some people were wishing MAPPA spent more time on that, which, oh man, Man, Mappa spending more time on things. Hindsight really is something, innit? But while Zombieland Saga might have been popular, it was still minuscule in comparison to JoJo's Part 5. JoJo's was massive before 2018, don't get me wrong, but Part 5 was able to gain even more popularity than initial projections because of its unique position in the timeline. The setup and the cast of Golden Wind were largely disconnected from the previous parts, so let's just say hypothetically, if you had never seen JoJo's before 2018, but you wanted to see what the hype was about, because that one mate of yours kept pestering you to watch it, then you could just start there and no one would be any the wiser to the fact that even though you can't stand band kids watching JoJo's just so they can overuse memes, you yourself are guilty of part skipping for that very same reason, and the guilt will never leave you. Once again, completely hypothetical. Stop looking at me like that. Both these shows were incredibly easy to market. Clips like the gang torture dance or the rap battle were very useful for getting people curious about the shows they were from, which is a lot more than Bunny Girl Senpai had to show for itself, because most of that show is just footage of two people talking in one of the more upmarket bits of Kanagawa. And while those conversations are great, you do need the context to understand why we love them so much. However, the bizarre moments of Zombieland Saga and, well, JoJo's bizarre adventure were much easier to take out of context, so much easier to spread. Typically, if you're releasing something at the exact same time as two properties with much more marketing behind them, you're going to find that no one pays attention to you, even if you're better than both of them. A process that I know all too well. But Bunny Girl Senpai still managed to hold its own against them. I'd even say that 7 years on, more anime fans talk about Bunny Girl Senpai than they talk about the other two shows. It should be worth mentioning that by this definition of anime fan, I'm not including people who have only watched JoJo's. I said anime fans, not Redditors. The third obstacle that Bunny Girl Senpai had in its way was the very genre it was a part of. A genre which also included the Monogatari series and the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I don't think it's easy to describe the genre that Bunny Girl Senpai, as well as the other examples I'm going to name, are a part of. I would call it urban fantasy, but that would just be a bit too vague. I could call it mystery light novel centered around usually high school girls who have supernatural abilities, and most of the story focuses around witty conversations between them and the snarky main character, but that would be a bit too long. Because we don't really have an easy name for it, let's just call this genre the best one. It may be a trifle hyperbolic, but what else am I meant to call a genre where even something as great as Bunny Girl Senpai is considered one of the lesser examples? It would be unfair to call Bunny Girl Senpai a Monogatari or Haruhi ripoff, but it's not hard to notice similarities. And unfortunately, Bunny Girl Senpai falls short in comparison. This isn't a slight on Bunny Girl Senpai, most things fall short in comparison to the Monogatari series and the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. But let's say you were a Monogatari fan, why would you watch something that reminds you of Monogatari just without all the stylistic quirks that make Monogatari Monogatari when you could just, well, watch Monogatari? The Haruhi comparison is also salient since not only does it have its own holiday-related time loop arc, but it's also not quite as beginner-friendly as Haruhi, since Haruhi has all the allusions to other genres, as well as a lighter tone to draw people in. So we've got something that was neither entry-level enough to appeal to first-timers, nor off-the-wall enough to match it up to Monogatari. And in a genre where you have to be one of those things to succeed, you are probably doomed. Yet despite all of this, as well as the other two reasons I mentioned, Bunny Girl Senpai succeeded. I'm showing you a list of anime on the screen right now, and the main thing they all have in common is that according to my anime list, all of them are less popular than Bunny Girl Senpai. Now, I don't think this is an accurate assessment. I call bullshit on Spy Family being less popular than Bunny Girl Senpai, but it still shows that a lot of people clearly love this show. Even today. In my opinion, the reason that Bunny Girl Senpai was so successful is obvious, and it's down to one person. I'm pretty sure we know who it is. Come on, they're on the front cover of the light novel. That's right, Hajime Kamoshida, the author. Bunny Girl Senpai achieving such a level of popularity, even with those three reasons I mentioned holding it back, is something that points to the strength of the writing. It's more than just Mai Sakurajima who made her way into our hearts, because practically every character will have their fans, including the male lead. In fact, I'd be willing to say Sakuta is even more popular than the main girl, which in a light novel is very rare outside of isekai. Turning back to Hajime Kamoshida, I was almost not going to watch Bunny Girl Senpai back in 2018, until I heard it was him who wrote the light novel. I changed my tune so quickly because he's also the same man behind another anime series which isn't quite as popular, but I feel is up to the same standard as Bunny Girl Senpai. That series is The Pet Girl of Sakuraso, which is an adaptation of another of Kamoshida's light novels. While it's not the most popular anime of all time, those who have watched it hold it incredibly dearly, on account of the fact this show is really something special. While the plot is a lot less supernatural than Bunny Girl Senpai, there are still two things that make this unmistakably Kamoshida's writing, namely a clingy Emoto and his exceptional knack for characters. The Pet Girl of Sakuraso introduced a lovable cast, and then once you've laughed along with them, it deals with themes of love, inadequacy, jealousy, and creativity in a way that feels personal, but without ever making it about anyone else but these characters. It's worth mentioning that Mari Okada was involved in the anime adaptation, and this is an example of her trademark love triangles done right, since you understand what every character wants and why, so it feels like a necessary enhancement of the narrative instead of random melodrama just to extend the plot. I'm not only recommending this to Bunny Girl Senpai fans, but also to those who like Toradora, because I think you'll love this show as well. I know that I did, because this is a show that has left an impact on me, and to a lesser extent, this channel. See that banner? That's where it came from. So why did I choose to watch The Pet Girl of Sakuraso? Well, it's because the main girl looked really cute, and she was. Shina Mashiro is best girl, but not just in the show, but probably of all time. Hajime Kamoshida has really mastered the art of writing prime waifu material and then naming a series after a description of them, and I'm not going to question the results. If anything, I'm going to encourage this practice on account of how it marketed not one but two fantastic shows to me. If a cute anime girl is all you need to convince you to watch a series, then I say, go on. Wait. Oh no. There wasn't a space between those last two words, was there?